So here's a bit of a duh statement. God created everything. But did you know that out of everything, that God created the mountains, the stars, the oceans, the animals, that you and I are God's most cherished possession. We are His crowning masterpiece. You don't have to go that far into the Bible to find this out. Genesis 1:27 says, "So God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God, He created them. Male and female, He created them." Have you ever really let that soak in, that you are an image bearer of God? That you have His image, that you were created in His likeness? But this might not really mean what you think it does. And John 4:24 clearly says that God is a spirit. So to figure out what it means to be in the image of God, we kind of have to dig deeper. We can look into other languages. For example, the Latin term for image of God is Imago Dei. And that is a much deeper meaning of it. When we dig into that, it means to reflect God's glory. So out of everything that God made, human beings are the only ones with the ability to create, to worship, to communicate, to relate, and most of all, to love unselfishly. So it's pretty cool to think about how there is nothing else in the entire universe that can mirror God's image or reflect God's glory the way that we can. Nothing else is made in the image of God. Nothing else is made in a way that it can totally reflect God's glory. Not a single human being ever to walk this earth was made without that, without the image of God, without the Imago Dei. But it's what we do with this that really matters. For example, some decide to take all of the good things about being made in the image of God and flip it on its head. All homicides, rapes, and other crimes that were committed from one human being to another all have one thing in common, and that's that the person who was committing the violent crime was not viewing the other person in the Imago Dei. They were not looking at that other person thinking, wow, that person was made in the image of God. You see, God's image compels God's children to love all people. It's impossible to hate another person when you're looking at them knowing, wow, that is God's handiwork. That is God's masterpiece. He put His stamp of approval on that person. He loves that person, and He made them in a unique, awesome, and divine way. The Imago Dei does two things, really. It shapes who we should be, and it changes how we ought to view each other. So stop being so judgmental of somebody else. You know, somebody might have a nagging characteristic that just gets on your nerves, gets under your skin. Let's stop harping on that, and let's start looking for the image of God. Start looking for God's characteristics in each other, because that is what the Imago Dei does. It calls us to look at each other in a way of, wow, that person is God's masterpiece. That person is God's crowning creation, and I ought to love them as much as God does. And we have to stop looking in the mirror and tearing ourselves apart. Yes, you have imperfections. We all have imperfections. But if we realize that we were made in the image of God, we will stop picking apart all those negative things and stop being so down on ourselves. And we will start boasting in the fact that we were made to mirror God's image.